The 1970s had a whole side of its music that didn't get the credit it deserved. Not the arena rock, not the disco, the quieter stuff. The songs that came through the car radio on a Sunday afternoon, or played from a turntable in a living room while the world slowed down for a few minutes. A lot of those songs have drifted out of rotation, and that's a shame. So today, we're going back to find them. 15 forgotten soft rock songs from the 70s you must hear again. Number 15, Drift Away by Dobie Gray, 1973. This song was not written by Dobie Gray, and most people who love it don't know that. Drift Away was written by Mentor Williams, the brother of singer-songwriter Paul Williams, who brought it to Gray after taking him to Nashville to record a new album. The record label wasn't impressed. They had to be talked into releasing it as a single at all. Gray had recorded the song at Quadraphonic Studios in Nashville, with session guitarist Reggie Young providing the opening guitar figure that became as identifiable as the song itself. Young's guitar intro was so specific to the recording that when he was asked to reproduce it for a Nashville radio broadcast roughly 2 decades later, he had to relearn it note by note. When Drift Away was released in February 1973, it climbed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was certified gold by the RIAA that July. It placed at number 17 on Billboard's year-end chart for 1973. The label still didn't quite know what to do with Dobie Gray. He was a black artist recording country-influenced material in Nashville, and MCA reportedly had no idea how to market him. Gray once said directly, they didn't know where to place a black guy in country music. 30 years later, in 2003, Uncle Kracker released a version with Gray himself singing portions of it. That version spent a record-setting 28 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart. The original had waited a long time for that kind of recognition.
I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
Number 14, Wildfire by Michael Martin Murphey, 1975.
She went calling wildfire.
Michael Martin Murphey dreamed this song. Not metaphorically, he was asleep on a friend's floor in California working long days on a concept album for Kenny Rogers when the song came to him whole in a dream. He woke up, knocked on the door of his collaborator Larry Kanzler, and they finished it together in 2 or 3 hours. The song is built on a Native American ghost horse legend that Murphy had heard from his grandfather as a child in Texas, later identified by author J. Frank Dobie in 1936 as one of the most prominent legends in Southwestern folklore. Murphy has said he was probably carrying it somewhere in the back of his mind for years before it surfaced in that dream. His producer initially didn't want to include it on the album Blue Sky, Night Thunder. After they recorded it at Caribou Ranch in Colorado at 10,000 feet elevation, the producer played it for the kitchen staff at the ranch. Their response was enough. It became the lead single. Released in February 1975, Wildfire peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in June 1975 and hit number 1 on the Adult Contemporary chart, displacing Love Will Keep Us Together by Captain and Tennille. It eventually sold over 2 million copies and was certified platinum by the RIAA. Members of the Western Writers of America later named it one of the top 100 Western songs of all time. Murphy said that after the song became a hit, he was finally able to move back to Texas, which is where he had wanted to be all along. Number 13, Please Come to Boston by Dave Loggins, 1974.
Please come to Boston, she said no.
Dave Loggins was a Tennessee-born singer-songwriter who toured with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band in 1972, and in doing so, visited Boston, Denver, and Los Angeles for the first time. Those 3 cities became the backbone of this song. Each verse sends the narrator to a different city, pleading, with the woman back home to join him on the road. Each time, she says no. The chorus eventually makes clear that she has no interest in any of it. She just wants him to come home.
Please come to Denver, she said no.
The woman in the song was fictional. Loggins later explained that there wasn't actually anyone waiting for him, so he invented her to make the longing feel stronger. He said, "Some 40 years later, I still vividly remember that night, and it was as if someone else was writing the song."
Denver ain't your kind of town. There ain't no gold.
Released in May 1974 on Epic Records and produced by Jerry Crutchfield, the song peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in August 1974 and reached number 1 on the Billboard Easy Listening chart. It was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance at the 1975 ceremony. Loggins never charted quite like that again as a solo performer, but his songwriting career lasted decades. He later wrote the theme for the Masters Golf Tournament at Augusta National, a piece of music that has aired every April since 1982. Dave Loggins passed away in Nashville in July 2024 at the age of 76.
Please come to LA to live forever.
Number 12, Summer Breeze by Seals and Crofts, 1972.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine.
Jim Seals and Dash Crofts had been making music together since the early 1960s, including time spent with the instrumental group The Champs. By 1972, they were a folk-influenced soft rock duo who had released 3 albums without breaking through commercially. Their 4th album changed that. Summer Breeze was the title track and the first of 3 top 10 singles for the duo. The song has an unhurried, open-air quality to it. Acoustic guitar, clean melodies, an arrangement that never presses or crowds itself. It peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1972. 2 years later, the Isley Brothers covered it and turned it into something quite different. A longer, slow-building soul version that found its own audience. The fact that 2 such different versions of the same song both worked says something about the strength of the original composition.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine.
Seals and Crofts had both embraced the Baha'i faith in the early 1970s, and their music carried a kind of spiritual calm that set it apart from harder-edged material of the same era. Summer Breeze remains the song most associated with them, though it rarely shows up on soft rock retrospectives despite how perfectly it fits the category.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine.
Number 11, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart by Bee Gees, 1971. Before the Bee Gees became the defining act of the disco era, they were something quite different. Barry and Robin Gibb wrote How Can You Mend a Broken Heart in 1970, and it was recorded for the album Trafalgar. When it was released as a single in June 1971, it became the Bee Gees' first number 1 hit in the United States, spending 4 weeks at the top of the Billboard Hot 100.
How can you mend this broken man?
The arrangement is lush and restrained, strings, soft harmonies, a tempo that never rushes. Barry Gibb sings the lead with a warmth that the group's disco work, for all its brilliance, rarely matched. The song was actually offered to Andy Williams first, who passed on it. The Bee Gees recorded it themselves and ended up with one of their most enduring recordings.
How can they stop the sun?
It was nominated for a Grammy Award for Song of the Year. Al Green covered it in 1972, and his version is widely regarded as one of the finest covers of the decade, a signal that the song had the kind of depth that great artists find worth returning to. Number 10, Dance With Me by Orleans, 1975.
Dance with me. I want to be a part.
Orleans were a New York-based band led by John Hall and Larry Hoppin, and Dance With Me was their commercial breakthrough. The song has a breezy, unhurried feel that made it a natural fit for radio in the mid-70s. It was released in the summer of 1975 and climbed to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100, spending nearly 5 months on the chart.
Dance with me.
The song was co-written by John Hall and his wife Johanna. Hall would go on to become a U.S. congressman from New York's 19th Congressional District in 2007, which makes him one of the few hit songwriters in American history to later serve in Congress.
Dance with me. I want to be a part.
Orleans followed Dance With Me with Still the One in 1976. which reached number 5. That second hit has tended to overshadow Dance With Me in retrospect, but the first one had all the same warmth and has aged just as well. It was a radio staple for years on adult contemporary formats before quietly disappearing from regular rotation.
I can take you where you want to.
Number 9. I'd Really Love to See You Tonight by England Dan and John Ford Coley, 1976.
I'm not talking about millennium, and I don't wanna change.
Dan Seals and John Ford Coley had been dropped by A&M Records in 1972 after 2 albums. They kept going, and eventually a songwriter named Parker McGee, based in Mississippi, presented them with a song. They didn't want it. Coley recalled later that they thought of themselves as singer-songwriters and resisted recording material by other writers. He also said, somewhat bluntly, that all the songs they'd written themselves had generated about $1.90 in sales.
And I'd really love to see you tonight.
Their producer persuaded them to try it. They recorded it, it took off, and Coley said the first royalty check made him reconsider everything he thought about songwriting. After that, he called Parker McGee directly to ask what else he had.
I'd really love to see you tonight.
The result was the duo's debut for Big Tree Records from their album Nights Are Forever. The song peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in September 1976, held out of the top spot by Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry for 2 weeks, and reached number 1 on the adult contemporary chart. It sold 2 million copies. Dan Seals, the England Dan half of the duo, went on to a successful country career after the pair split in 1980. He died in 2009. In February 2026, Billboard named the song one of the top 50 love songs of all time.
I'm not talking about millennium, and I don't wanna change.
Number 8. Brandy, You're a Fine Girl by Looking Glass, 1972.
There's a port on a western bay, and it serves.
Looking Glass was a New Jersey rock band that spent years playing clubs and recording without landing a hit. Brandy came out in the spring of 1972 on Epic Records and by August had reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the only time the band would ever top the chart. It spent 1 week there. The song was written by lead singer Elliot Lurie and tells the story of a barmaid who serves sailors and loves a man who has chosen the sea over her. It has the feel of a story song, a complete character, a specific setting, a melancholy resolution, rather than a conventional pop single. That specificity is part of what has kept it memorable. Looking Glass never came close to repeating its chart success. The band released a follow-up that year and another the following year, but neither gained traction. By 1974, they had broken up. The song turned up in the 2014 film Guardians of the Galaxy as part of the film's Awesome Mix Volume 1, which reintroduced it to a new generation of listeners. At the time of the film's release, digital sales of the song spiked dramatically.
Here's them say, Brandy, you're a fine girl, fine.
Number 7. Baby Come Back by Player, 1977.
Baby, come back. Baby, kind of fool.
Player was a Los Angeles-based band formed in the mid-1970s, and Baby Come Back was their first single and their biggest. Written by guitarist Peter Beckett and keyboardist J.C. Crowley, the song was released in the fall of 1977 on RSO Records and spent 3 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1978. It also reached number 1 on the adult contemporary chart.
Baby, come back. Any kind of fool.
The song is often mistaken for a Hall & Oates recording because of its production style and harmonic approach, which share some qualities with that duo's work from the same period. Player was not, in the conventional sense, a one-hit wonder. They charted again in 1978 with This Time I'm In It for Love and continued recording through the early 1980s, but Baby Come Back is by far what most people know them for. The track has been sampled multiple times by R&B and hip-hop artists over the decades, which speaks to the strength of the groove underneath its soft rock surface. A well-produced soft rock single from 1977 being sampled 30 years later is not something you'd expect, but it happened.
Baby, come back. Any kind of fool.
Number 6. It's Too Late by Carole King, 1971.
And it's too late, baby, now it's too late.
Carole King had spent most of the 1960s writing hits for other people. By 1971, she had written for the Shirelles, the Drifters, Aretha Franklin, and James Taylor, among many others. Tapestry, her second solo album, changed everything.
Something inside has died and I can't.
It's Too Late was released as a double A-side single with I Feel the Earth Move in April 1971. The King side that dominated radio was It's Too Late, a mellow, precise, slightly jazz-inflected recording that spent 5 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year in 1972. The song was co-written by King and Tony Stern. The arrangement is understated by design: acoustic piano, a subtle horn section, a rhythm section that doesn't crowd the vocal. King said the song was written from a place of honesty about a relationship ending without drama or anger, just the recognition that something was over. Tapestry itself went on to spend 15 consecutive years on the Billboard 200 and remains one of the best-selling albums in recording history. It's Too Late is often the entry point.
And it's too late, baby, now it's too late.
Number 5, The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia by Vicki Lawrence, 1973.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
Vicki Lawrence is known to most people as an actress and comedian, a longtime fixture on The Carol Burnett Show. But in 1973, she recorded one of the most distinctive story songs of the decade.
That's the night that they harmed an innocent man.
The song was written by Bobby Russell, who also wrote Honey and Little Green Apples. Russell originally wrote it for Cher, but Cher passed. It went to Vicki Lawrence, who recorded it with producer Snuff Garrett. Released in January of 1973, it shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March and stayed there for 2 weeks. The song is structured as a Southern Gothic murder mystery narrated in the first person, with a twist ending. It was unlike anything else on the soft rock charts at the time. Darker, more narrative, almost cinematic. Reba McEntire covered it in 1991 and took it to #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. Lawrence's original remains the more striking recording, in part because nobody expected it from her.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
Number 4, Goodbye Girl by David Gates, 1977.
Baby, goodbye doesn't mean
David Gates spent most of the decade as the lead singer and primary songwriter of Bread, one of the most commercially successful soft rock acts of the early 70s. In 1977, he recorded a solo album and contributed a song to the Neil Simon film The Goodbye Girl, directed by Herbert Ross and starring Richard Dreyfuss and Marsha Mason.
let me tell you goodbye doesn't
Gates wrote the title song for the film, and the recording was released as a single in late 1977. It peaked at number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became his biggest solo hit. The movie itself won Dreyfuss the Academy Award for Best Actor that year, which kept the film and the song in public view through the awards season. Gates had a particular gift for melody that made his work with Bread so enduring. Songs like If, Everything I Own, and Make It With You, and Goodbye Girl carries all of that. It's a polished, melancholy song that fits the emotional weight of the film without needing the film to hold it up. On its own, as a recording, it holds.
Baby, goodbye doesn't mean
Number 3, Laughter in the Rain by Neil Sedaka, 1974. Neil Sedaka had been one of the most successful pop songwriters and performers of the early 1960s, responsible for hits like Oh Carol and Breaking Up Is Hard to Do. By the late 1960s, his commercial profile had faded significantly in the United States. He spent those years recording in the UK, where he still had an audience, and writing songs for other artists. His American comeback began in 1974 when Elton John signed him to his Rocket Records label in the United States. Laughter in the Rain was the first single, and it went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1975, spending 1 week at the top. His first U.S. #1 single in over a decade. The song was co-written by Sedaka and his longtime lyrical collaborator Phil Cody. Elton John, whose own career was at its commercial peak in 1974 to 75, served as a visible champion of Sedaka's return, performing with him and speaking publicly about his admiration for Sedaka's songwriting. The association with John gave Sedaka's comeback a credibility boost that might otherwise have been harder to achieve. Laughter in the Rain has a lightness and melodic precision that made it a natural fit for adult contemporary radio, warmly familiar without being predictable. It's a song that has largely dropped out of soft rock retrospectives, despite having been a genuine chart topper. Number 2, Longer by Dan Fogelberg, 1979. Dan Fogelberg wrote Longer during a camping trip in Hawaii in the late 1970s. He said the song came from sitting outside watching the stars and wanting to find a way to describe something larger than the usual language of love songs, something that placed a feeling in cosmic rather than personal terms.
Burning lines in the book of our life.
The song was recorded for his album Phoenix, released in November 1979. It was released as a single shortly after the album and charted in early 1980, climbing to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, kept from the top spot by Call Me by Blondie. It spent 3 weeks at number 1 on the adult contemporary chart. The recording is simple: acoustic guitar, Fogelberg's voice, minimal accompaniment. There's no attempt to fill the space with production. That restraint is the whole point. It's the kind of song that works specifically because it doesn't try too hard. Fogelberg died in December 2007 following a battle with prostate cancer. He was 56. Longer remains the song most associated with his name, and for good reason. It's a near-perfect piece of soft rock songwriting from a decade full of them.
I'll be in love with you.
Number 1, How Much I Feel by Ambrosia, 1978. Ambrosia started out as a progressive rock band in the early 1970s, signed to 20th Century Fox Records and then Warner Brothers. Their earlier albums featured long, complex arrangements that bore little resemblance to what became their biggest hit. How Much I Feel was released in the summer of 1978 and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was written by David Pack, Ambrosia's guitarist and lead vocalist on the track, and it was a significant departure from the band's earlier sound. Shorter, cleaner, built around a direct emotional statement rather than instrumental complexity. The production is polished without being cluttered, and Pack's vocal sites right in the center of it. The band charted again in 1980 with Biggest Part of Me, which also peaked at number 3. Together, the two songs represent a brief but memorable stretch of soft rock success for a band that had spent years in a completely different musical world. How Much I Feel tends to get overshadowed by the follow-up, but it arrived first and set the template. It's the kind of song that sounds immediately familiar even to people who can't name it, which is, in a way, the definition of a forgotten hit. These 15 songs didn't disappear because they weren't good enough. Most of them were hits. Some of them were number 1s. They faded the way a lot of things fade, not through failure, but through time and the narrowing of radio playlists down to the same 30 songs on rotation. The music is still there. It always was. And if any of these brought something back for you, a car, a summer, a specific afternoon you hadn't thought about in years, and that's exactly what it was supposed to do. If this video was worth your time, hit the like button and subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.